Hey everybody, a couple days ago I put the amber running light modules in my Ranger Raptor, and I did it going through the fender well and fumbling around in the blind trying to get the 3 bolts out and then the wiring clip and put it all back together. It took about 2.5 hours. While I was doing it, I was thinking, man, it would be so much easier to take the headlight out. So I did that today. It is not easier. So I'm going to show the clip of doing all that in a minute, but I wanted to kind of go through the fact that you got to loosen the entire fender. You've got to take the entire upper bumper cover off. You've got to take the grill off. You've got to take some trim pieces back here. This piece of, what is this? The fender flare has to come off, and this has to get unclipped. It was extremely difficult, and there's so many clips in there that are hard to get to. I was just praying I wasn't going to break anything the entire time. I didn't video taking it apart, but I did get a video putting the whole thing back together, and I was pretty detailed. So you should still be able to get a good idea on how to get your headlight out if it's something you really want to do. So when I was doing it, I was very frustrated. But when I finished, I realized now that I know where everything is, know how to get everything out, know what to be careful of, it is a doable thing. But if you're up in the air and you look at the 2 different tutorials, just do the one where you're going through the fender well. And the reason I say that is if you mess anything up, you're only messing up the module, and the module can be replaced. If you mess something up when you're taking the entire bumper apart, you could end up with some weird panel gaps, and you could screw something up, you could damage your light. There were just so many more negatives to taking the entire headlight out. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into that video right now and let you see what it was that I did. Granted, I was extremely frustrated while I was doing it. Now I've had a chance to calm down, get a drink, so I'm a little bit more clear-headed about it. But man, I was a little bit scared there for a minute. Hey guys, not going to be a very high quality video today because I'm holding it in my hand and I don't have my mic, but I wanted to show you it is possible to take the headlight out of your Ford Ranger. This is a Raptor, but I'm assuming they're all going to be pretty similar. It is an absolute pain though. I recommend not doing it. I did this to see if there was an easier way to put the amber light mod in there, and fumbling around trying to get the bolts on through the fender well and getting that clip done that way is so much easier than what I had to go through to get this headlight out. I mean, I had to take so many bolts off. Let me just show you what I had to do here. So first thing I did is took the grill off. So I took this top piece off, pulled out the 3 bolts down here and the 2 bolts that go into the back, and pulled the grill off, which requires unplugging some wires here. You have your washer fluid thing that goes down to your forward-looking camera, and then you have the wire for that. And then I had to take this piece of trim off, which is tied in directly to this piece of trim with these 2 clips here that tie into those 2 spots there. And then there's a bolt here that has to come out. There's 2 bolts that go into the headlight here. This whole thing had to come down. I unbolted a bunch of bolts to loosen this thing. I had to take the 3 bolts that hold the quarter panel on so I could move it. And the reason I had to move it is on the headlight itself, this clip here goes behind this here. So you can't just pull it straight out, it has to come up. But it can't come up because this groove here is holding that little pin right there. So the light is not easy to maneuver. And then there's bolts. There's a bolt that holds it in here. There's 2 bolts on the side. There's bolts straight down. There's clips everywhere. I mean, this is all the gear I have. It's just everywhere. And when I started, I was like, oh, I'm doing a good job. Oh, the other part, I took the entire fender well out because I had to get this thing off, which is a pain. And I'll show you the way I did it. I just reached in behind it and pinched those little guys. Once I had the liner out, you could reach behind it and get your fingers on it and pinch it out. But even then, it's not worth it, guys. Unless your headlight burns out and completely craps the bed, don't bother with this. Do the amber light mod the way they recommend it through the fender well. Fumble around with those 3 screws. I would much rather spend 3 hours doing that and screw that up than spend 2.5 hours doing this and screwing this up. So I am just praying I can get this thing back together. I'll do a time lapse of me putting it back together, but I don't know if I have it in me to do a detailed video on how this thing works. Unless you guys really want it, let me know. I might do it again. But to me, I just don't know what to say. I'm looking at this and I'm already scared. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get the light back in there without breaking anything and getting everything to fit. So I'm just going to get to it. All right, guys, cheers. Okay, here's my attempt at putting this thing back together. I guess now that I have this off, well, it works. I'm not even going to mess with the module. Okay, so there's two screws that hold just this metal plate on here. One that went in really easy, and the other one that was completely hosed. It would not go. I ended up stripping the bolt a tiny bit, and I was getting so frustrated, I just put my impact driver on it, and it is seized in there. This is not coming off again, but I'm to the point where I don't want to say I don't care, but I really don't freaking care. I just want to be done with this. And I apologize for this video not being good, but my patience is at an end, and I'm just doing my best not to lose my shit. We're working on this piece here now, and it was a clip that goes in here, and then 2 bolts here, and 2 bolts there. Okay, so right now, I plugged in the headlight, I've got the screws on the headlight in, I've got this piece of trim back on, now trying to get this corner put back together. I did take this thing back further than I probably need to. There are a handful of guideposts on here, so that's not an actual, why is this not focusing? There we go. This is not a clip. The clips are in here, and they actually snap in. Well, I don't really want to pull one out, but I'm going to. All right, this is the clip. That's what it looks like. And you just slide the 2 parts around that and snap it in place. And that's the clips. Well, those are the clips all the way along here. They're all the same. So when you do this, you cannot just rip these clips out because these things just bend the opposite direction. So the only way to get it is to reach on the inside of the fender and pinch these and push it through. Or if you yank up on this thing, if you yank up in that direction, this will come down and out, and then this will be stuck in here still. This will be stuck in there, and then you're up against the same thing. You can't just rip it out. So really the best thing you can do is reach behind the, get the fender liner out, reach up in here and pinch these things and push it out. It's hard. You could use needle nose pliers, but that's how the fender flares are held on. And then there's also a couple screws, 2 in the back, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. And then this clips, these 2 clips here tie in to this spot here, and it's a pain. You just gotta trust what you're doing and push. So I just yanked crap out. Now I'm kind of in a spot where I don't want to put anything on before I've got the screws in that need to be in. Okay, I remember now. There are 3 screws. So I'm gonna actually see if I can get this thing out of here. Well, you can see there are 3 nuts right here. There are 3 holes you gotta reach up inside the fender, and then there's 3 bolts that screw down into this. But before I do that, I want this thing hooked back into here. And I can't get the freaking thing out. There we go. So it's just these 2 little posts go into holes to hold this in place. But what I'm gonna do is actually clip this back onto here. So this black thing is clipped onto this piece of trim now. I'm gonna stick these 2 guideposts up there, and then I've got my 3 10mm bolts that are gonna go in through the fender and screw down onto here to hold this piece right up against this piece, and everything will line up perfectly and the gaps will be just right. Now, I'll do this again. I'm gonna put this on here, and you don't have a whole lot of play because the wiring for the amber marker light is on this. So you just gotta get them lined up. There's some parts that have to go on top, some on the bottom. Once you get it close, you just start applying pressure. And there we go, we're getting it. Not quite there yet, but close. All right, so that is in place. And now, I've got my 3 10mm bolts. I'm gonna slide this up where it goes. There we go. Now I can put these bolts back in, assuming I haven't forgotten any steps. All right, I was very nervous that I was going to not know which bolts go where. I did not do a great job. I didn't realize how much of this stuff I was gonna have to take apart. And I was not being very good about putting specific bolts in specific places. I just figured I'd remember, and here I am 2 hours later, and I cannot for the life of me remember what goes where. So I think I'm getting it though. I'm a little less anxious now. I've got the part that I was the most concerned back together, and I haven't missed any bolts or screws, so that's a good thing. I've got the light mounted back in there. It is secure and sturdy. This is easy to just snap back in, but before I do it, I'm going to make sure I've got the wiring harness for this side marker light put back through where it needs to be and plugged in before I snap anything in place. And I'm just going to take it slow, because if I end up with extra pieces, I'm going to be pretty frustrated with myself. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Then I got to get the whole fender well put back together. Man, this was a bad idea. But now we know it is much easier just to do the work in here. Now for the fender flare. All right, so this is a guidepost that I'm talking about. And then there's one back there I've already gotten in. Right now it doesn't line up. You got to bend it a little bit to get that thing to line up and go in the hole. But first I've got to plug this back in. All right, so I'm putting the fender back on. I got those guide holes in there. I think I showed a little bit of how that works. You just kind of snap it as you go. The thing I'm concerned about is getting this hook back into that correctly. And then there's some screws that go back here. So there we go. They're just snapped in. And then the back, there's some screws. So we're put back together here. I'm happy with that. I'm going to put the screws in now. And the screws that I'm talking about are those two right there. So that's what I'm going to put in now. That'll hold everything in place. And then same thing in the back. I took the entire mud flap off to get this thing out of here, but there is one screw. If you can even see it, I don't know what I'm looking at. Yeah, there's a screw hole there. I got to line it up and put that one in too. I'm looking through everything I have left. I don't see any crazy screws. For the most part, what I have here are the 7mm bolts and the plastic rivets that hold everything together. So that is really good news. I was pretty worried about that. One thing that I haven't done yet is I've got this side put together, but this actually clips into here. So you just got to come back and it clips above and below. So on the bottom, you can see like little tabs. You got to push those down. So you pull on the top to get those out, and then you push on the bottom tabs to get the bottom part out. Otherwise, you could break something. But anyway, that's back in there. This is one of the 3 bolts that holds the grill on. So that one will go in later. I'm just making sure I don't have any loose stuff. And then in here, you can actually see some of the wiring inside the light, but that's behind the grill. So that's kind of cool. All right, so it's time for me to put the fender liner back together. And one thing I didn't do, shit. So these 2 holes here are supposed to go here. So I got to take these 2 bolts out and then line this up on there. Not that big of a deal. These are easy to get to. It would have sucked if they were a different set of bolts. Okay, so now this part of the fender liner, basically just put it over the tire, get it back sort of into place, and pick a couple things to start with and get it tied back in. I'm now back to familiar ground, but like I said, I have one clip and I don't remember, it was somewhere holding a little trim piece together. So I'm just gonna put it in a bag, and if I ever do this again and I find a hole somewhere in this general vicinity, I will put it back together. Kind of frustrating. I don't like to make things more efficient if I can avoid it. So I did have to take the license plate off because this trim piece had to come out, so I'm going to put this back on right now. All right, while the grill is off, I will show you. This is the light bar I mounted behind the grill, and there are 2 bolts here that were actually there already. I was able to mount this using the existing hardware, not having to drill anything. It's about 1 centimeter, or a little over 1/4 of an inch too wide, so I had to do some weird spacer stuff here, but this thing is super secure. But I did have to trim a little bit of plastic away, but it does not affect the louvers. They still open and close. Anyway, on the grill, and that's what we're going to put on now, you've got a wiper fluid connection and a wiring connection for your forward-looking camera. So those are 2 things that everybody's going to have, and then I have my wiring for the amber grill lights. And the way this thing goes in here, you've got a clip on either side. So you got one right here and one over here, and those clip into right here on the headlight, which is kind of crazy. And then there are a total of 5 bolts. There's 2 up here that go back this way, and 3 on the bottom that go in. So to get it all in place, I pull all my wires up so that they're not stuck down here. And then there's a guide hole right there. So that you put the guide hole in the middle on the bottom. And then what I do is get these lined up. Snap that, snap that. Okay. And now I just gotta put my bolts back in, and then I'll do my wiring, and then I'll snap this trim piece back on. So I'll do that right now. So you got 5 total bolts. 2 of them have really big heads on them, and they're a little bit longer. And 3 of them are short with a little bit of blue thread lock. They're all 8mm, so they're pretty easy. You just grab an 8mm and you can take this whole grill off. All right, so the one with the big head and the bigger washer is gonna go here. All right, just snug. I mean, I'm just putting a little bit of pressure on it because metal going into plastic, again, I've said that a couple times, but you always wanna be careful with it. And then same thing on the other side. It's just over here, there's a little U, and then the bolt goes in. And then the 3 in the front are also pretty obvious. There's a hole right here. I'll do the far side, and then one directly in the middle. And then this trim piece goes over all those screws. And notice there are a bunch of clips, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plastic clips, black plastic clips there, and then 2 yellow ones actually go into holes there. And on these, I actually want to show you because it's weird. So this is going to go back on like this, but if you look at it, those 2 are facing up. This one is facing down. This one's facing up, and then those are regular clips. So just know, when I do this, I take trim tools on the left side, and let me just put this on here and I'll show you how I get it off, because taking it off is a little bit difficult. All right, so when you take this thing off, what I do is take you need 2 stiff trim tools. So between this honeycomb right here, you can actually get down in that groove. And notice your clips are, one is right here and the other is right there. So once you get it out a little bit here, then stick another one up here and just pry on it. They will snap out. It'll sound like you broke something, but you didn't. You're just getting the clips loose. And then just slowly go across and yank on it. And there's significant snaps. So I have a couple little like spots on my thing here where I've put my trim tools in, but I stick one in here and then I get one over and just crank on that to get this clip, and then I pull it, kind of a quick jerk to get this one, and then you just work your way along and then yank it off. And then once you have all of these screws, these and the 3 on the bottom, just kind of grab inside the D and pull, because you're breaking loose that clip here. Same thing on this side, grab below the F and pull, and that one will come out. Then the whole thing comes off. But the things you have to remember to do, let me bring the camera in again so you can see it. So this is the washer hose. There's a clip right here. So first thing I'm gonna do is just snap it back together. Snaps in really easy. To undo it, you'll see it has like 2 open spots and 2 little nubs. You push on the 2 nubby things to make this oval turn into a circle. Once it's a circle, you can just pull it out. It being an oval is what makes it snap in there. And then once you have it clipped back together, just put it inside of its little clip here. Snap that shut. Maybe. Come on, man, you're making me look bad. There we go. So now the washer fluid stuff is done, and we have the electrical connection. And this is another tricky one. I saw some people actually break this thing off when it actually slides off really easily. Okay, this is the wire right here. I've seen some people like crank on this thing and actually break it off, but it's really easy. This part here slides on that. You go over it and slide it back. So now this is secured to this piece of plastic. To take it off, you push. So let me make sure you can actually see what's happening here. This is sort of in the way. So below this brown thing, there's a little black tab. You push down on that little black tab, and then you can slide. There you go. Push down on the little black tab and you can slide this thing forward. You can see there's a little clip on that. It's catching this. So for this wire, you put it past it, slide it back. But what you're gonna do when you're taking this thing off is you're gonna unplug it by pushing this top thing here. So that's unplugged. Now you've got to get this off. You push down on that black tab and slide it. Man. There, slide it forward. Maybe if you use a screwdriver or something to push on, it'll make it that much easier. So now I've got my camera hooked back up. I've got my washer fluid hooked back up. And then these are just for my amber lights. So I'm gonna hook these back up and zip tie everything back together. I buy my zip ties by the thousands and it's totally worth it. I love zip ties. Now the last thing we gotta do is put our cowling back on. So you don't have to take the cover for the intake off to get this on and off. It makes it a lot easier if you do though. This one here is the hardest one. It's the thickest plastic. And when you put it through, the clip doesn't go all the way down to the bottom of the hole that it's secured into. So it's really hard to push this thing. I say that and it goes right in. Normally I have to smash on that one with a hammer or my fist or something. So we are good here. Everything's done. I'm going to reconnect the battery and make sure my headlights work. Oh, thank goodness they work. Okay. So as you can see, it's all put back together. I did test it. The headlights do work. The amber lights still work. I mean, I didn't change anything. And actually, I was so frustrated during all that, I didn't even take the module back off and scrape off the extra thermal grease that I put on there because I wasn't about to do the entire passenger side and I didn't want to do one and not the other. So I hope you found that helpful. To answer the question, it is way better just to get the right tools and do it in the small space. I said during the video that I was going to try taking out the 3 bolts on the fender and moving it a little bit. You might get about a 1/2 inch of play there, and I really don't see that as being too beneficial. Maybe if you're trying to get the plug back in and you have someone with small hands that just can't quite get there, you could give them a little more space. But my concern with that is if you're pulling and you pull a little too hard, you could bend or crease something in here. I mean, it's a piece of sheet metal, so if you mess it up, you're gonna have weird ripples, and I don't know that it's worth it doing that. So just deal with the tight spaces, get some long needle nose pliers, and just know you're gonna mar up that wiring harness, putting it in and out with needle nose pliers. That's just the way it is. Maybe if you put electrical tape around them, you could do better. But there you go. Headlights can be removed. Like I said in the video, I don't think I will do it again, and now, like if you had a second person, doing it through the actual fender well is not all that bad. And now that I've done it, I could probably do the whole thing in 2 hours instead of 2.5. No matter how fast I got, I think taking the headlights out and putting them back in, just that part alone would take me 2.5 hours. And it would be nerve-wracking the whole time because you end up with so many parts and pieces and little clips. And honestly, I was amazed when I got everything put together and all I had left was a single plastic clip. All the bolts were reused. I did strip one out, putting it back in my absolute frustration. I just grabbed my impact driver and just went to town on it, which was really dumb. I already regret it because I know next time I got to take that thing out, it is going to be seized in there and you can't even get a torch on it because it's up in there next to a bunch of wires. So not my smartest move, but it's held in there now. If I never have to take that off again, in all of my, I'm 42, 43, I don't know how old I am, but in all my time of driving, I've never actually gotten into that before. So I don't think I will ever have to get there again, but just, I should have taken a deep breath and stepped back. I let my emotions get ahead of me and I just went to town on it. I should have maybe got another bolt or anything like that. But anyway, I feel like I'm just rambling, so I'm going to end there. Cheers.
It's over!